Andrew Plitt here with andrewplitt.com. In this video, we are continuing to look at the very basic foundational principles of Standing Post Qigong. If you're brand new to Standing Post Qigong, or if you have a lot of years of experience, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions about what we talk about in this video or previous videos, please put those questions in the comments below. In this video, we're talking about the direction the feet should be facing when you're practicing your Standing Post Qigong, and kind of the thought process behind why the feet should be facing certain directions. A lot of times you'll hear that they should be facing forward only, and that's the best way to do your Standing Post Qigong, but there's actually a reason for doing the facing forward, a reason for doing facing out, a reason for doing facing in, and we'll talk about that a little bit in this video. So the way I was taught with Standing Post Qigong is that when your feet are facing forward, you are sort of in a neutral position. So you're not necessarily gathering energy, you're not necessarily expending energy, you're sort of in between. And that's fine, that's a great way to practice. If you have your feet facing out, typically what that is for is expressing energy. And so you see that a lot in martial arts stances, even Chen style Tai Chi especially. There's kind of an outward angling of the feet, and that has a lot to do with being able to position your body in a way where you can express energy and express motion and power so that your body is well supported as you do that. Now the other way that your feet can face is inward. And the way that I was taught was that this is sort of an energy gathering and condensing stance. So rather than expressing that energy or expending that energy, or being neutral of neither necessarily expressing and expending the energy or gathering the energy, you're turning your feet in for sort of an energy gathering stance. Now again, if you don't subscribe to the idea that you're gathering energy or expending energy in the form of qi, this is also beneficial in other ways. So we'll talk about how it affects your body structure, so that if that's kind of how you think about things, you can see the thought process behind why you would stand this way. So an important idea in Taiji and Standing Post Qigong is the idea that the front of the body and sort of the insides of the forearms and the arms here, and the insides of the legs and the front of the legs, that's kind of the yin side of the body compared to the back of the body. So the back would be your yang side, the outsides of the arms would be the yang sides, outsides and backs of the legs would be the yang sides. So those are like your expressive sides. The other sides are sort of your inward drawing sides. And that even makes sense if you think about the musculature of the body. You have your adductors and your internal rotators that are more to the inside. You don't really have muscles on the outside of the leg that are pulling the leg inward, right? So the things on the inside draw in, the things on the outside tend to draw out. So this is kind of more expressive muscles, this is more drawing in muscles. So even the structure of the body and how the muscles are set up is going to support that idea of sort of the yin side of the body being at the front and the yang side of the body being at the back and the outsides. So with that in mind, as you practice Tai Chi or as you practice Standing Post Qigong, what you want to do is keep in mind this sort of forward rounding. So inside, front of the body goes in, outside, back of the body expands. And you use the lower dantian as kind of your center for outward expression toward the back and inward drawing in at the front. And you don't want to do this so much that you kind of collapse and fall forward, but you can have that intention, and that's one of the things that helps you build like fullness and correct expansion and Pung energy as you're doing Taiji training. And if you're not interested in Tai Chi, that may not make a lot of sense to you if you're not used to, or if you're kind of new to Tai Chi. That's kind of a specific term that I'll get into in future videos, but you can find a lot of information about it on the internet if you just Google Pung. It's spelled, the pinyin for it is P-E-N-G. And it's a very foundational concept in Tai Chi training that really supports all the motions of the body as you're practicing Tai Chi. But like I said at the beginning of the series, Standing Post Qigong is really the first form. It's the first thing that gets you your structure that you need for practicing Tai Chi. So we learn these principles of inward in the front, outward in the back, to kind of learn to get the support that we need to support our Tai Chi movements, or to support any movement that you're doing in your daily life. So right now we're just going to be focusing on the lower half of the body because we're really wanting to focus on the feet for now. But we need to involve the lower dantian in this idea of why the feet are being turned in. Because when you turn your feet in, you want to make sure that you don't turn your feet in and leave your knees out here. The turn should happen from the hip and the whole foot and leg all the way down with the knee and the foot aligned should roll in. So the turn happens at the hip. Same thing on this side. Turn happens at the hip. So it's from here all the way down. So as you do this, we're going to turn the feet in, feel what it's like to kind of relax and draw in on the insides of the legs up from the bubbling well point that we talked about in the last video, and expand down through the legs in front of the heels. So you have this sort of corkscrewing into the ground effect through your legs. So it's not just that you're standing here, it's that you're expanding down into the floor with this twisting motion spiraling through the leg into the floor, and you have a counter spiral coming back up the leg on the inside. So the leg's doing this like it's drilling into the floor. And when you first do that, it's going to be like a lot of muscle tension. And that's fine in the beginning because you kind of need to get that feel for what things are doing in the body. So if you put a lot of tension in the leg, that's one thing. As you start, that's fine. Get that idea of drilling down and drawing up. So you have in on the inside, out on the outside, up on the inside, down through the leg, more on the outside, going in front of the heel. The legs are doing this. Now, once you get that idea and that feel, try to let go of the tension of the leg and let the structure of the leg and the expansion through the leg support the legs and the weight of the body in the feet and in the legs. And once you're there and you kind of have that relaxation, but you see how this structure supports your body and how you can expand through it, you'll start to see, as you practice more, that expansion feeling allows you to support your body weight with less obvious muscle tension, less muscle activation. So you're not sitting here with your legs just locked up holding this. You want to relax as much as possible and expand through the legs with that rotation down through the leg into the floor. And the more you practice this, the more you're going to feel like your legs have extra energy reserves that allow you to stand longer in this position without the legs becoming fatigued or gaining a lot of excess tension because you're fighting to hold yourself in this position. So really what turning the feet in does is it kind of honors the structure of the body, that internal rotation from the insides of the legs, that outward push from the backs of the legs, and allows the body to do what it can naturally do to become very stable. Now compare that to having your feet directly forward. There's nothing wrong with that stance, but you lose that sensation of the inward rotation and the outward expansion of the yang side and the yin side. And so it's totally fine to stand like this, but it feels more static. That sensation of sort of drilling into the floor should be there, but it's not as obvious. And so this can be very useful, especially when you're beginning, to get that feel of how the body moves in a Taiji manner and how the structure of the body, even internally, even though I'm not moving in this stance, I have that intention of down in front of the heels, up from the Yongquan, and so the stance is very alive and active, even though from the outside it just looks static, like I'm standing here. Now contrast that to turning the feet out and see how that is kind of the opposite of what we were talking about before, the inside rotation versus the outside expansion. Now once you have the feel for how to do that here, then you can feel it more here, and you can even make it happen here. And that's something that happens in Taiji training, is that you learn to do an outward rotation and inward rotation as you shift the body in one direction. You learn to use those spirals going down, and in this case I focus on the spiral coming up. On this case I focus on the spiral going down. So the motion does this. And so it's a combination of which energy, either the down sort of yang or the up sort of yin, is being emphasized in each leg. So that's why, especially in Chen style, you see the outward stances, because it allows a little bit more freedom in movement, and it allows you to decide based on how you move whether you're focusing on the yin or the yang of each leg. But as you can see, that's more complex. Now we're doing more focus of yin or upward, more focus of yang or downward and out, and that's two different things going on at the same time, and that's more complex than if you're standing in Zhan Zhuang or the Standing Post Qigong. And so that's why you start here. And you learn to get the feeling for that upward on the inside, downward and out, kind of on the outside and back of the leg, going down in front of the heel. Because when you can learn to become aware of it here, then you can learn to manipulate it and change what's happening in other stances, other footwork patterns. So to practice Standing Post Qigong with your toes pointed out is kind of to jump the gun and to try to learn how to do that rotation or change what part of that rotation is being focused on before you have the feel for how to do that. To practice with your feet facing just forward, you don't really get that feel. You can't develop it in the same way as you can with the toes facing in. So learning this, whether you believe that it's actually gathering energy up from the ground and sending energy down toward the ground or not, the body structure and the way that you become aware of your body is useful, again, with that intention of this internal movement through the legs, whether there's actually energy moving or not, whether you believe in that or not. Having the intention, using that sort of mental image, that intention through the legs, is going to change how you relate to your body, and it's going to change how you control your body and it's going to change how your body relates to the ground as you're moving. So it's really important, really foundational in Tai Chi training. And if you don't believe in Qi, and so you skip that concept of those intentions of energy moving down and energy moving up, then you skip a really important part of becoming aware of your body structure and how it moves. And that's going to hinder you in the future in your Tai Chi training. So that wraps up this video for the directions that your feet should be facing when you're practicing Standing Post Qigong. I would encourage you to practice standing with your toes turned in. And the first thing that you want to do is make sure you're turning from the hips, and that when you get here, your knees aren't poking out or in, that they're aligned with the toes. If you feel stress or strain on the outsides of the knees, you're probably pushing the knees out too far. If you feel it on the insides of the knees, you're probably pushing them in too far. Either way, it's not ideal. So what you want to do before you do anything else with this is learn how to get your knees aligned, learn how to relax the hips. So the insides of the hips here need to relax and fold in, the outsides need to relax and round kind of out and forward. And this can be difficult, especially if you have really tight IT bands. They're going to want to try to pull your legs out. So you kind of have to actively think about those areas and relaxing them to allow yourself to find this structure. Once you've done that, then I want you to go back to what we did in the last couple of videos and make sure that you have the weight centered right in front of the heels, and you have the downward intention there, and that you have the upward drawing intention at the bubbling wells. Once you have that, so those three things, those three components are in place: the inward turn with the safe structure of the legs and knees, the downward force in front of the heels, the upward force at the Yongchuan points or the bubbling well points. Then try to connect that so that there's a continuous downward force through the spiral of the leg, going out in front of the heels, and there's a continuous draw up coming in through the bubbling wells point, all the way up through the legs to your lower belly. So from the lower belly or from the lower dantian, down and up. So you have a circuit going, okay? So it gets a little more complicated. I would spend a lot of time working on just that. Don't worry about the upper body. Obviously have it in sort of a neutral position so you're not putting extra strain or building up any tension anywhere in the body. Try to keep it pretty neutral, but your focus is all going to be from the lower dantian down through the feet and back up to the lower dantian. And you don't need to like imagine that there's a circuit going there. What you want is downward intention, upward intention. That will take care of if you're worried about whether energy should be traveling through certain meridians, anything like that. Have the intention, and the body will direct the energy through the correct meridians in the correct way. You don't need to try to map out the meridians in your mind and make the energy move to each point along that meridian. That's not actually that helpful, and it's not really what you need to be doing. In Taiji and in Standing Post Qigong, it's not about moving the Qi, it's about having the intention and letting that intention move the Qi. So practice that when you're going to typically be doing your Standing Post Qigong training, just focusing on the lower half of the body, all the things that we talked about in this video and previous videos. And when that becomes second nature to you, and you can do all of that, and you feel like you can just kind of sit there and have that expansion supporting your legs, supporting your frame, the lower half of your body easily, then you want to move on to the next video. I hope you found this video very useful for your Standing Post Qigong training. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I'd be happy to hear what your thoughts are on these videos, if they're helping you in your training. And if you did get something out of this video, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also become a supporting member of this channel to help ensure that more videos like this will be made available in the future. Stay safe and healthy out there, and as always, thank you for watching.